Power, conflict, and the making of modern Britain. Power is rarely given. It is taken. The authority of the United Kingdom's Parliament, often called the Mother of Parliaments, was not created by design, nor granted by kings. It emerged through centuries of struggle, compromise, civil war, and revolution. At the heart of this transformation lies one of the most dramatic periods in British history: the clash between King Charles V and Parliament and the rise of Oliver Cromwell. This is the story of how Parliament evolved from a medieval advisory council into the supreme governing authority of the United Kingdom. Long before democracy, England was ruled by kings who governed with advice, not consent. In Anglo-Saxon England, the Witan served as a council of nobles and church leaders who advised the king but possessed no independent authority. After the Norman conquest of 1066, William the Conqueror replaced it with the Great Council, a body of barons and bishops that reinforced royal power rather than limiting it. For centuries, monarchy remained absolute, but in 1215, that certainty fractured. Faced with rebellion, King John was forced to sign the Magna Carta. Though not democratic, it established a revolutionary idea. The king was subject to the law. Taxes could not be raised, and subjects could not be imprisoned without lawful justification. This moment marked the first formal limitation on royal authority, a turning point that would echo across centuries. In the 13th century, representation began to expand. In 1265, the reformer Simon de Montfort summoned a parliament that included not only nobles and clergy, but also commoners, knights and representatives from towns. This experiment became permanent in 1295 with Edward I's model parliament, which established the two-chamber structure still used today, the House of Lords and the House of Commons. Parliament's influence grew not through idealism, but necessity. Kings needed money, especially for war, and Parliament controlled taxation. Over time, this financial leverage allowed Parliament to demand concessions. By the late medieval period, Parliament had become a regular institution of governance, though it remained subordinate to the Crown. During the Tudor era, monarchs ruled strongly, but Parliament became an essential partner. Henry VIII demonstrated Parliament's growing importance when he used it to legitimize the English Reformation. The Act of Supremacy of 1534, passed by Parliament, severed England from the Catholic Church and declared the king its supreme head. Parliament had now proven it could reshape religion, law, and national identity. Yet the ultimate balance of power remained unresolved. That balance shattered under the Stuart kings. When James I ascended the throne in 1603, he brought with him a firm belief in the divine right of kings. The idea that monarchs answered only to God, not to Parliament or the people. Parliament increasingly viewed itself as the protector of English liberties. Conflict was inevitable. Under Charles I, the tension became explosive. Parliament resisted his demands for taxation and forced him to accept the Petition of Right in 1628, asserting that taxes and imprisonment required parliamentary consent. Charles responded by dissolving Parliament in 1629, embarking on 11 years of personal rule. But absolute rule came at a cost. Wars drained the treasury, and by 1640, Charles was forced to recall Parliament. What followed was the Long Parliament, which rapidly dismantled royal authority, imprisoned the king's advisers, and stripped away his powers. The confrontation escalated into open conflict. In 1642, England descended into civil war. The nation split between royalists, loyal to the king, and parliamentarians, who believed sovereignty rested with Parliament. Parliament raised the new model army, a disciplined professional force led in part by a man who would soon dominate British history, Oliver Cromwell. After years of brutal fighting, Parliament emerged victorious. Charles I was captured, and then, in an unprecedented act, he was placed on trial. In 1649, Charles I was convicted of treason against his own people and executed. For the first and only time in English history, a reigning monarch was lawfully put to death. The monarchy was abolished. England became a republic. Power now rested with Parliament, but unity did not follow. The Commonwealth struggled with division and instability. In 1653, Oliver Cromwell lost patience. He marched into Parliament, dismissed it by force, and assumed power as Lord Protector. England remained a republic in name, but in practice it was ruled by a military-backed authoritarian regime. Parliament existed only at Cromwell's discretion. After Cromwell's death in 1658, the system collapsed. His son proved incapable of ruling, and the army fractured. Faced with chaos, Parliament made a decisive choice. In 1660, the monarchy was restored, yet the restored monarchy would never rule as before. Under Charles II, Parliament reasserted its authority, passing laws such as the Habeas Corpus Act of 1679, which protected individuals from unlawful imprisonment. When James II attempted to bypass Parliament and rule as an absolute monarch, Parliament intervened once again, but this time without bloodshed. In 1688, it invited William of Orange to take the throne, forcing James into exile. This event became known as the Glorious Revolution. The following year, Parliament passed the Bill of Rights of 1689. It permanently transformed British governance. The monarch could no longer suspend laws, levy taxes, or rule without Parliament. Elections were guaranteed, and parliamentary speech was protected. From this moment onward, Parliament was sovereign. Over the next centuries, that sovereignty evolved into democracy. Executive power shifted from monarchs to ministers, drawn from Parliament. The office of Prime Minister emerged. Voting rights expanded through a series of reform acts, eliminating rotten boroughs and extending the franchise to working men, and eventually to women. The Parliament Act of 1911 removed the House of Lords' veto power, ensuring the elected House of Commons was supreme. By 1928, universal adult suffrage was achieved. In the modern era, Parliament built the welfare state, founded the National Health Service, navigated world wars, and debated Britain's role in Europe. The Brexit process, completed in 2020, once again centered on parliamentary sovereignty, a concept forged centuries earlier in civil war and revolution. Today, the United Kingdom is a constitutional monarchy. The monarch reigns but does not rule. True authority lies with Parliament, composed of the House of Commons, the House of Lords, and the Crown acting only through law. The struggle between Charles I and Oliver Cromwell was not merely a civil war. It was a defining moment that answered a fundamental question: who rules Britain? The answer was not kings by divine right, nor generals by force, but Parliament, shaped by conflict, restrained by law, and accountable to the people. Parliament did not inherit power. It took it, and it never gave it back.